All right, so went ahead and did the inlay last night. It's all dried. Everything looks good. I went ahead and put 2 layers of chop strand mat. I divided it right here in the middle so I didn't mess with that little entrance. But I cut a piece out that kind of goes this shape right here, and it goes down the sidewall. I put another piece here of chop strand. You can see it right there. That way it fills that hole in, so I can fill that hole in and we can smooth this all over for when we paint the boat. Makes the nose of it nice and rigid. Now let's turn on some light so you see here, see what I did? So I've got the foam right here in the middle that comes out further to support this part of the boat. And then I went ahead and took the Dremel and dremeled out a pocket so the batteries could get further forward. So that was my initial thought on that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut, since I've got that really thin piece of carbon fiber plate that I had made, I'm gonna cut a piece of carbon fiber plate and put it right there in front of that to kind of just, you know, make it look a little bit neater and cooler looking. These are the through-hole water pickups that I'm gonna use. They have the larger diameter port on them. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back in here and we're gonna put them through the hull, more or less on the inside. I'm just trying to get it to stay. We're gonna have it chilling somewhere in there like so, and mount it somewhere in that back corner, and then put fill it full of epoxy. Well, it's been a few days. Got the catamaran all here, and basically what I've done is I've reinforced the upper edge here with layers of fiberglass all the way around the back, all the way even in the back corner. Left this little pocket open to where I can put my little, you know, through-hole water pickup there. I'm kind of nervous about doing that, but I wanted to go ahead and reinforce all the the upper section with chop strand mat, and I've actually kind of overlaid it in a couple of areas. Now, excuse me. This is my servo mount. And now the aluminum servo mount you see here is the only one that OSC had in stock. So I had to make it work. So I took a piece of carbon fiber plate, bolted it to it, and then I did some epoxy here to where the screws and the bolts were kind of solid, and then I just put nuts on it. So I could either take the nuts off here or I can take the servo off here. Now what I'm doing now is I'm going to work on blueprinting the boat. Never done it before. Watched all the Ironclad's videos and a couple of other videos. So I'm going to try my hand at doing this. I have literally got everything. I've got chopped up carbon fiber. I've got pure graphite powder. I've got denatured alcohol. Multiple different types of epoxy laminating resin, Cabosil if I need it. This epoxy coating resin. So I'm going to go ahead now and start the process, and then I will show y'all a little bit midway through it and then the finished product. So wish me luck. Well, I just got finished with the first coating. How it ended up turning out, I'd say it turned out pretty good. I don't know if I can get you a pretty good zoom in on that. It's fairly smooth. I know it doesn't look like it on the camera, but it actually is pretty nice and smooth. It's about as smooth as I can get it. I waited about, I don't know, an hour, and then I used some denatured alcohol and a spatula to try to a putty knife to try to smooth it out. But next step, we'll be letting it dry over the next 24 hours, and then we'll come in, sand it, and coat it again. Now it's been about 3 days, and all of my carbon fiber and graphite epoxy mix is set up, and I went ahead and started the sanding process on it. Now this was just the first initial coat. There's a couple spots like right here you can start to see a little white showing through there. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop, and we're gonna do a second coat. What I did, I used this metal beam here because I thought about using a piece of wood, but my wood has got a bow to it, so I don't want to use that bow. So I decided to put some 120 grit on this piece of metal angle here, which is kind of perfect. It's legit like the same width if not about a 1/4 inch wider, and then you can hold the angle of that. And you know, doing it this way, you're going to make it flat, which I don't want to make it flat. I want to have, I measured originally and it was 2.5 degrees on each one. So I'm going to try to keep that 2.5 degrees as I do this. But I'm just basically going across it, keeping them on both, doing this about 15 times, and then I come back here and do this. Originally my centers were low, and I focused more on putting more on them, so now my centers are high. You can kind of tell right here. So I'm going to go ahead now. I'm just kind of dressing up little areas like these. I got to get in there and you know, smooth this out a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and lay down my second layer. Now it's been about 5 days total since I started this. What you see here, that's the third coat. Now that is strictly just XCR epoxy and a lot of graphite and a little bit of Cabo Seal to basically thicken it up to where I could get it to build up on the edges here and not all run down. You can kind of tell I did get a little bit of runnage here, but I was able to get a nice 90-degree edge on the back of both of these. I still have to work on this one here a little bit more, but it really helped to get the 90-degree lips on these pieces here. You can see a little bit of pitting. I believe that's from the graphite, not 100%, but I'm still working out the angles. So this side here all has a nice angle down. It's 2.5 degrees. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. You see that angle? Well, all of them are angled that way, all the way down. And it fits perfectly. You see that? Now if we come over here and look at this, the middle one sits up. Try to get that to focus. The middle one is kind of giving me a little fit. So I got to do a lot of work on this middle pad here because it's more flat than anything. So I've got to really angle it. Well, last night when I started working on it, I was giving it angle, and I had worn all the way through in this point here just trying to get that angle. So it was almost like the original piece here didn't have as much, I don't really understand what the terminology is, but it didn't have that angle. All the other ones, when I used my angle finder, 2.5 degrees, 2.5 degrees, every one of them was fine. This one, not so much. So I'm trying to get that angle in this, and I'm using this to get the right height on the back of the pads. And then this one here is taller, which it used to be lower. And I think that's what happened. Both of these in the center were low, and I built them up. And when I did so, it kind of like leveled it out because I built this one up. So now I've got to kind of get it to go back down, and I've got to put that right angle back on it. And what I've been doing, I've been using these shims. I've been putting them on this side. I've been flipping it this way, and I've just been kind of slowly going back and forth like that. It's a little bit easier when I'm not recording, but that's the method I've been using to try to keep that perfect angle on this. But once I get it all finished, I'll give you the final result. Alright, so I've been working on this a little bit on and off. The big messed up area was right here. I have sanded it down, went over the whole thing. I went and bought some gel coat, and then I've been sanding on the gel coat after I had mixed, you know, some fiberglass with it and whatnot. I plan on painting the whole boat, but rather than use epoxy resin on the outside, I decided to use polyester resin, and you know, just trial and error. You know, I've never really used polyester resin. Everything so far has been you know, epoxy based. Steady working on it. Now I have started the blueprint process. I'm like 90% of the way done with it. I had a few touch-ups where the sanding had gotten thin on the hull, on the sides, trying to make the sides nice and good. And then here, the center sponsons were very, very low. and the angle of the center sponsons were off considerably compared to the others. So I went ahead and addressed them, and I sanded a little bit too much here, but I really don't think it'll matter. I've got about a 2.5 to 3 degree angle on all these, and if you put the straight edge across, they're only touching in the backs about 3/4 of an inch on the back of each one. So they actually are pretty nice. Pretty nice. But I'm gonna tell y'all something. Doing a thing like this, that is so time consuming. I mean, oh my God. I had black boogers from the amount of sanding that I have been doing, because it's got your chopped carbon fiber and it's got your graphite mixed in it. And boy, oh boy, you can just see all the dust is absolutely everywhere. Well, it's been like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks since I have the last clip that you just saw with the Catamaran. And I've addressed it a few little ways, and I want to show you to basically end the video here. And then the next video covering the Cat will be the finished product. So all I've really got to do, I've got to take these and cut them down. I'm going to trim the edges on them to where they fit down in the hull a little bit better. Then I'm going to take battery straps, and I'm going to rivet them to this. That way, because the last time I had it glued, but I got to cut these down to fit the hull now. I'm going to take you over here and show you what I've got. Just finished priming it, so there's still some wet areas on it. I had primed the underside earlier, and now I just finished priming the upper side. I used the automotive spray paint, can primer, and I think it'll do just fine. I'm going to do a 2000 grit wet sand on it tomorrow. Maybe the next day. I want to make sure it's fully cured. And then I'm actually going to go get some automotive candy apple red with some metal flake in it, and we're going to paint this thing. Kind of like the Daredevil theme. That's kind of like what's in the back of my head. I really love all the Marvel stuff. So I really thought about doing a two-tone. Thought about leaving the primer like on the bottom and do like the Punisher logo underneath the bottom, and then do the top candy apple red and kind of, like the Daredevil. But, that was just kind of what was in the back of my head. But let me go ahead and pull this out. I'll show you how my inlay turned out. Turned out really nice. I'll go ahead and turn the light on for you. So yeah, got the inlay in there. Looks really nice. I didn't go in the back corners. All the way in the back corner, if you see back there, you can see where I took some chopped up stuff and some resin, and I kind of packed it in the corners. The boat is not lightweight anymore. It's got some weight to it, especially since I did the foam up front. But this thing is, I'm going to put a massive motor in it. I'm thinking about putting a 4092 TP motor in it and run this thing on 8S. And then I did the through-hole water pickups, and those were actually designed for really thin carbon fiber. And it was kind of unfortunate because when I did the blueprint on the bottom, it added thickness to it, so when I cut it out, I shouldn't have done that. What I should have done is just take a drill bit and drill like a 30 degree or 45 degree hole through the rear sponson, and then just stick me a brass tube or a barb or whatever and go with it that way. But let's see if I can show you. I can't show you because I've got them taped up right now. But I've got little holes right here, and I had cut it out, and then I had to refill it back in, and stuck me a piece of wire in there, coated in Vaseline, and then I packed it full of epoxy, graphite, and carbon fiber. And then I had to sand it back smooth again, and I pulled my wire out after about an hour and a half, and it left a nice, pretty smooth transitional hole. So now there's nothing on the bottom but that angular hole for my water pickup. And then I forgot to plug that hole, which used to be my water inlet, and I wasn't thinking until I started painting. I was like, damn, I don't need water inlets anymore since I have the through holes. And this, I can't take that out because I had in the past epoxied the nut on the outside. So we'll figure something out to do with these, but for now we're just going to leave them. We'll paint over them. I might do you know, three water inlets, you know, since I have 2 through holes in the bottom. But I really need to make sure that those actually work well before I start thinking about canceling something back here. So that way I'll have, you know, I can just plug that for the time being. But turned out really nice. It's going to be awesome. If you remember from the crash, there was a big giant chip over here. Big piece missing. So I had filled that in. I made a mixture of polyester resin and chopped up fiberglass, and I smoothed it, packed it full. I think it took me 2 go-rounds, and then I sanded it really smooth, and you can't even see where it was. Like nowhere, like it was busted down all the way down to here, all the way up to here. You can't see anything, any deviation in that. That looks so cool. It'll probably show a little bit, you know, more once I get some gloss on it. But yeah, turned out absolutely beautiful. This is gonna be sick. So stay tuned for the next one, y'all. Peace out, boat gang.